Good evening, everybody. It's John here from Tutor to You, sitting in for Duncan tonight. Duncan's off on his holidays. Hope you're having a great time, Duncan. Welcome to those of you who are joining us live. Let me just have a look at our clock here. We've got a few of you here live, and welcome to anybody who's watching this on replay too. Welcome to our another of our series on A Level Sociology. Tonight we're concentrating on gender and education. Very warm welcome to our two presenters tonight. We've got Katie in the middle of the screen and we've got Craig on the right hand side. Good evening, both.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good evening, John. Evening, Katie.
Good
evening,
see you
everyone
both.
else as well.
Yes, good, and good evening to everybody who's tuning into us. So if you've not watched one of these before, we've got about 30 minutes of fast-paced revision activities on gender and education. We're going to be using a little PowerPoint file as we're delivering that, and that file will be available to download as soon as the live stream is over. This is being recorded. You can always watch it all over again. Shall we get cracking, guys? Shall we get going with the activity? Shall I hand over to you guys?
Yeah, I'm eager.
Yeah, that's a good idea, John. Yeah,
okay, let's go for it.
You're up first, Katie, I think, today.
I am. So a nice little sort of ease into looking at gender and achievement. We're going to have 60 seconds on the clock, and we've got lots of keywords there related to reasons why gender might be impacting on educational achievement. We've got you to sort them into three categories. Which ones would you align with male achievement, female achievement, and which ones might sit with both? Well, I will say to you, if there's a keyword on there that you don't know, please don't worry. You might learn something from this, or you can always park it if it's not one that you sort of really need at this moment in time. It's just sort of an overview at this stage. Are we ready on the clock, John?
Let's go for it.
Let's do it. So just sorting them, you can put the numbers in rather than writing the whole word out. So you might put if you're new to this, just write into the chat comments. So female achievement, and then maybe put the numbers on next to it. Male achievement or males, and then the numbers, and then both the numbers as well. So yeah, using that chat column for yourselves. We might just put F and then the numbers, M and all the numbers, and B and all the numbers to keep it nice and brief for you. Okay, so we haven't got so much on the chat at the moment, but Craig, do you fancy having a conversation with me? Oh, they're coming through slowly but surely.
Yeah.
There we go.
Just coming through. So, I can see the live chat here.
Ah, right. So you're probably just a little delay on our end. Okay, so I've got Jack here. Jack has said,
and 7 ladism.
Yeah, so we've got two. Gender subjects, that's an interesting one. Do males and females have an impact on gender subjects? But definitely 7 lads and definitely associated with men. Obviously, Willis studied that and looked at male underachievement linked to ladism. Are there any more that might be coming through? What do you think, Craig? What's your ones that you're leaning to?
Well, I mean, I always find this is really an interesting kind of topic when you talk about gender and when you talk about gender and achievement, because often when one benefits one group, it disadvantages the other. So often, sometimes some of these come up in both. Some of them, I would say, definitely lean more one way than the other. And we've probably got a few key words in there. Jack has just corrected himself and said he meant that number 2 and number 7 were both. But there's a few key words in there that might help you out a little bit. Things like crisis of masculinity, hegemonic masculinity. Which area may they end up in?
Yeah, definitely. So Jack's put another one in. He's added number 4, which is hegemonic masculinity, and 1, crisis masculinity. So obviously, if we know what ones are the males, they may fit in to the females. And like you said, a really good point there, that actually they're not fully exclusive, because some will have a knock-on effect on the other sort of gender. So should we have a little look at the answers, John? So what we've got there is Equal Pay Act directly has an impact on female achievement, but you could argue that may have had an impact on male achievement as well, in regards to sort of like the crisis of masculinity, potentially, if you were to make that debate out and analyse that. We've got patriarchy in education, which I know is something Craig's coming to look at a little bit later. We've got bedroom culture. Now, some of you might not have heard of that, and that's absolutely fine. It's just the idea that in the past, and maybe not so, you could evaluate that quite quickly, but in the past, girls traditionally spent time in conversations, talking, writing notes. It was part of their sort of bedroom culture, and that would have developed their literacy skills. It would arguably make them better for subjects like English and history and humanities. Obviously, you mentioned Landism
And
already, and the crisis of the massacre. Go for it. Sorry, go for it, Craig.
yeah, I was just going to say, and with that, so like you might come under bedroom culture or under gender socialization, and of course, a really nice way to analyze this concept of bedroom culture, the idea that girls are more controlled in society, and therefore, sort of like they're more controlled, and therefore they develop skills such as literacy skills and communication skills, as you were mentioning, Katie. That benefits from an education. Boys are less controlled, and that then has a negative impact on their education in terms of sort of like being socialized into a more active role. And doing that compare and contrast is a really nice way to get your kind of analysis in when you're writing an essay.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I think there's been some research about boys playing sport and they sort of don't develop that literacy skill. And it's not like you've also got like undercover studiers and not called to study. So there's different ones you might have seen. So don't worry if you've not come across that. Crisis of masculinity, you might have come across that with the Mac and Gow studying the sort of deindustrialization, hegemonic masculinity. Again, some of you might be looking at the moment with crime. Messersmith looks at it as well. So it might be something you look at. And then we've got both. Obviously, we talked about this a little bit earlier with gender role models. They both have those role models within society that might reinforce gender stereotypes. And then gender subject choices. I think it's worth pointing out here, if you've got a question on gender in education, it's really worth noting that you're not just talking about females or you're not just talking about males. Sometimes the temptation is to have a bit of a lopsided essay. So that's why I thought we'd start off with looking at male and female achievement, because it's really important to talk about both of the questions regarding gender. So let's move on. Craig, I think you're going to develop this a little bit more for us.
Yeah, I mean, what we're going to look at is sort of like is within the kind of specification point where we're talking about gender and achievement, there are other ways in which schools impact on gender identity, gender subject choice. So we're going to do a quick 3-2-1 quiz now. For those of you who've done a 3-2-1 quiz before, you will know that we ask you for 3 of something, then 2 of something, then 1 of something. You have 90 seconds to answer that. Today, we're going to look at 3 ways education can be said to be patriarchal. Obviously, sort of like education can be male dominated or disadvantages girls in some way. 2 ways in which teachers might your gender identity, and 1 social policy that has impacted on subject choice. So this section is not all completely about achievement. It's also about the ways in which boys and girls are treated in the education system. So let's have 90 seconds on the clock. And can you come up with 3 ways that education can be patriarchal, 2 ways teachers shape gender identities, and 1 social policy that may have impacted on subject choice? Again, just put your responses in the chat. You might do 3 and then a couple of reasons, 2, and then 2 reasons and 1, and then a policy.
This music always makes me want to dance.
Go on, Katie, you saying the music?
I know, it makes me want to dance. I'm dancing as well as thinking of ideas.
Yeah. There's a lot of musical idea, a lot of music in there.
Yeah.
Think of 3 ways in which education might disadvantage girls. I mean, we talk about girls and how their achievement has improved, but one of the questions you may get asked is ways in which girls are controlled within the education system. It has come up in the past as a question, 3 ways in which education can be seen as patriarchal. Whilst girls' achievements have improved, there is still controls placed on girls within the education system. 2 ways
Sam's come out with an
teachers shape
answer.
gender identities.
Oh, I think Sam might be responding to the last one.
I think he may be typing and answering at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe hit 2. 2 ways teachers shape gender identities. How might a teacher shape your gender identity? Now, remember, if you were watching us last week, we talked about social class identity and how many of the things that impact on achievement also impact on identity formation. And then 1 social policy that's impacted on subject choice. There is a little bit of a delay from us to the screen, so I'll just give it another moment. But we're looking here, ways in which education can be patriarchal. Jack's popped up here. Gendered subject choices, that is a good one. Education can be patriarchal. Girls may be sifted off into certain subjects. Removal of coursework, yeah. Obviously, sort of like when we had the changes to the curriculum for this specification, probably when in 2017, first examining, lots of subjects had coursework removed, which is seen to put boys at an advantage or girls at a disadvantage, and a male-dominated curriculum. So obviously, you know, particularly in things like history, there's lots of historical figures who are male. We've also got through labelling and positive role models, two other good responses there from Jack. Can anybody come up with a social policy that might impact? There's one that often gets used here. Something that may have helped girls choose certain types of subjects is the one I was thinking about. Subjects that they may traditionally not have done.
Is there going to be an answer
Moving
here? So there's quite a
girls
lot of different policies.
into
I mentioned one.
something or other.
Yeah,
There are.
we might mention some of those a little bit later as well.
Removal of coursework. Yeah, that could be a good one. New GCSEs and A levels. Let's have a look at some of the responses I've put up. So first of all, controls over uniform, the way in which girls' uniform tends to be policed a lot more than the males, particularly things like the length of a skirt or makeup or accessories, you know, that are worn. Obviously, we can kind of link that into some other sociological studies. So for example, like the Louise Archer's Nike identities and the hyperheterosexual personality, the male gaze, how female students tend to be viewed as sexualized objects by pupils, by male pupils. And also, we could also maybe link in there, sort of like that schools don't take sexual harassment of girls as seriously as they should. And hierarchy of subjects, which is something I think Jack mentioned, gender subject choices. Some subjects tend to be placed higher on the hierarchy, and those tend to be in the STEM fields, and they tend to be given more prominence than subjects in the arts and humanities. Which are dominated, the arts and humanities are largely dominated by females. Let's look at our two ways in which teachers can shape gender identities, reinforcing subject domains. So the idea would be is that sort of like, you know, girls being discouraged from doing subjects that are in the male domain. Quite famously, there was a head teacher who was involved with the Social Mobility Commission who suggested that girls didn't like doing physics. And that's an example of reinforcing a gender domain. Or turning a blind eye to harassment. And that obviously then has a knock-on impact where girls start to believe, it has a knock-on impact, impacting on the male gaze there as well. There's a few other ones that you may have done in there. I think Jack sort of said labelling is a really good one.
Oh, okay. I don't know if Craig.
Role models, particularly in education, female role.
Okay, I think Craig might have frozen this. Should we have a look at number one, the next one? Yeah, so we've got policies. Obviously, Jack went with the idea of the removal of coursework, and obviously you'd have to do some explaining of how that impacted subject choices, that maybe girls felt there was less subjects for them to choose, or they chose more subjects that still had the coursework in there. And then you've got gist and wise, which is one that you may be more familiar with, which is sort of the pushing for girls to do STEM subjects. So we're starting to see girls take engineering, science, technology as well. So a whole range of policies there might have had an impact. You could even say Equal Opportunities Act as well, so that girls feel that there is an opportunity for them to get well-paid jobs in what was seen as traditionally male jobs. So lots there. Obviously, the stepping stones, which we're going to look a bit later, will get you into thinking about how you make that explanation. Okay, John, are we good to go to
I'm not quite sure I am back.
I know.
I think I got
you
cut
just
off
froze.
there.
I did some chit chat. So anyhow, for those people that may have not seen the connection spinner before, we're going to make connections. And so as you should know, that sociology is hugely synoptic, and within a specification, within the topic, you're expected to make links across different topics. So you might have been taught one thing, but you might be expected to make a link between something else within that topic. So if you're doing education, technically speaking, any bit within education Welcome back, Craig. They can be linked together. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do. So we're going to put the spinner on, and we're going to focus on gender achievement again, and we're going to spin that wheel. So are we ready, John, to spin that wheel? Where's it going to stop? No one knows. It's spinning. Just into external factors. Now, you might have heard this as external factors or outer school factors or home factors. They all mean the same thing.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is that element of the course and how that has an impact on gender achievement. Okay, so again, type away. How do external factors or home factors or outer school factors all mean the same thing? What can you think of anything that might have an impact on gender achievements? That can be male and female achievement, anything outside of school. Type away again in the chat.
I think I've seen once it said factors in wider society. It's always handy to kind of have always kind of handy to have those in your head, because sometimes the questions do get a little bit tricky, and what you've seen in the textbook as either external or internal isn't always presented in the question. So it's always useful to have those.
Yeah. So changes the position of women in wider society. Excellent, Jack. You're on fire today, Jack. Thank you, is what I'm going to say to you. Thank you, because I'm not speaking into the wind. Yes, definitely. Can you? I mean, not just Jack, but anybody. I mean, I think Sam was making an attempt there. So I don't know if Sam, if you want to, you can contribute to anything else external. The key thing is thinking like this might be something you would do in the beginning of exam. You might be looking at your item and looking for information there. Socialisation of girls might be different to boys, and that might have an impact on their achievement. There was been research that it was a long time ago, but there was research suggesting that parents had higher expectations for their girls in education than their boys, because they felt their boys were going to do okay without the education, so that extra sort of pressure for girls to do well at school just so they could compete against their male counterparts. Kirkland and Rowell, I think it was, that did the research, thinking back in my head. Some other external factors, something we've looked at already, the crisis of masculinities had a big impact on male achievement. We've got things like subcultures sometimes can sit inside school, so the anti-school subcultures as well as the ones that are outside of school as well, because obviously that could be both, depending on how you write it. We've also talked about policies as well. They might have an impact. So there's lots of things we've talked about.
I'm not quite sure it's Katie. Is Katie gone? I don't know if it's just me. He's not like he's on at the moment, or I don't know if I've gone again.
Oh, I'm on. Can you hear me? We're all.
I can hear you both.
Oh, there we go. That's cool. So I'm still here. So so they're the sort of the external factors that might have an impact. Let's have a look at what I've put. So I've talked about deindustrialisation. Now I put that rather than crisis masculinity, just so we're really pinpointing what that might be. And obviously there's a debate there on whether that is quite a historical study, and that actually there isn't still that sort of divide for males and females in the same way there was sort of in the 1980s. So it's unpicking that. We've also talked about role models in the community, so maybe parents or people in careers. So I think Jex has made a comment. The back and forth tutorial response, sort out things, responses. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry about that. I think there's some sort of like communication delay from what we can hear and what you guys can hear. So apologies for that. Shall we spin that wheel again? Let's see. So we're having a little look on this one. Where's it going to go? So we do not know. Okay, policies. So we have looked at a couple policies. So it's just, what policies do you know of? There might be ones we have already stated that have had an impact on gender achievement. Now, Jack mentioned one earlier, which was the removal of coursework. Are there any others that we've talked about? Let's not leave all the work to Jack. Jack is doing very well today.
I think I got kicked out there for a minute, so I am back now.
Yeah,
obviously
we are
connection problems we're having here.
Yeah. Putting in a lot of pressure on you, Jack. Yeah, go for it, Craig.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, think about some of the policies that may impact on gender achievement, whether they are a direct educational policy or, kind of an indirect, wider policy. I don't know if you've explained. I don't know if that was what you explained. I think
Yeah,
I
just
came back in
yeah,
just as it was
it doesn't
spinning.
have to be a direct one. It can be something inadvertently that might have an impact. Um, So yeah, the removal of coursework would definitely be something, or the reverse of that. You could talk about the linear exams potentially, and the emphasis on that. Should we have a little look at what we've got there? Because obviously Jack's done a lot of work today. I've talked about the Sex Discrimination Act. You've also got Equal Pay Act as well. You've got Gist and Wise, which you've spoken about. We've also got. You could have looked at like the change in industry full stop, which has obviously had an impact on male achievement as well. What the point I
You
want to
can
make
also
here
think
is
about. So you can also think about sort of things like the national curriculum, because of course prior to the Education Reform Act in 1988, you could have had gendered subjects. Things like home economics versus technology, and obviously getting rid of that has an impact. Just kind of Playing for Success initiative. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of initiatives around linking sport and reading. I think Reading Champions was another one
yeah,
that
yeah. There's a
came
lot
up where
about that.
like Frank Lampard was reading books. Reading books, dads and lads book reading initiatives. There's lots of localized initiatives, particularly to get boys into literacy. And the National Literacy Campaign, which was introduced under New Labour, I think. Obviously, there was a large focus on boys' rates for literacy. You can even potentially talk about things like Sure Start, because it was seen that boys started behind girls, and so there would be a knock-on effect there. Things like Sure Start, sort of like trying to get boys in the early years reading and getting them more involved in educational activities, whereas it was girls who would start school ahead of boys.
Yeah, and I think the key point that I want to pull out here is work. I mean, the next step after once you obviously finished a lot of your content is practicing those synoptic links across the topic. Don't think it's going to be as straightforward. Tell us about gender and achievement. They could apply any of these other sort of areas as well. So just be mindful of that with your revision. I'm going to pass you over back to Craig.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of analysis, as Katie was just saying there, we're going to take you through an activity, the Stepping Stones activity. What we're going to do is we're going to highlight a cause and an effect. And what we want you to do is to explain how we get from the first stepping stone to the last stepping stone. And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to evaluate it, and we're going to do it again. So this, in a way, is almost like laying out a very basic structure of a paragraph. So we've already seen that like one of the things that shapes gender identity is subcultures. We've mentioned this in our previous live streams, particularly in social class. But how might a laddish subculture shape?
Oh, I don't know if poor Craig, he's not having luck today, is he? I think he's being
Cultures,
chucked
you would
out
be
again.
correct in saying that. But then what you have to do for an examiner is to explain how it does that. And this is what we do with the Stepping Stones activity. So what we might do is we might reveal our next line. So we started with the laddish subculture. And if we reveal the second line there, yeah, there is an initiative to get more involved with sons' education during New Labour years. It was I think it was Dads and Lads or something like that. I think it was called, Jack. Can we reveal the second line, John?
I think it's been done, yeah.
Have I been lost again?
No, you're still there. You're still.
Yeah, you're with us, Craig, but I'm not sure whether you're seeing the same as the rest of us. So currently on screen, we've got reject education is feminized, and then we've just revealed boys subjected to homophobic abuse for excelling in education.
In the second line?
Yeah, I think you might have been seeing something slightly different, Craig. So yeah, we've got laddish subcultures, as I said. So it's thinking about those processes of analysis. And
I think I may be offline again.
Yeah, with your top marks. Okay. So should we look at the fourth one, please, John? Is that all right? Sorry. Yeah. And so what they do, boys, is they sort of conform to laddish identities to gain status, which then sort of shapes of male gender identity. And I'd sort of add that sort of that's very heteronormative gender identity. Obviously, there's lots of male identities. If anyone sort of has explored that a little bit in other topics, so it's that process of explaining how that laddish subculture reinforces a male identity. So it's not always about gender and achievement. It can also be about why how it shapes male identity. And what you might do is give some examples of that as well. So you can give examples of what boys might do to conform to laddish identities. So it might be, as I mentioned before, not studying and not seeing it's cool to study. So you get these things sort of undercover studies as well, boys that sort of claim they don't study and actually do secretly as well. So it doesn't actually cause underachievement either, because they might do it secretly. But yeah, so it's those stepping stones that are really important. That's analysis. Should we look at the next one? I think it's an evaluation wheel. With evaluation in sociology, there are different types of evaluation, and we sometimes refer to that as scale evaluation. So, highlighting a strength, a criticism, an alternative, a limitation, or evidence. So, what we're going to see in a minute is a possible statement that might be written in an essay, and what you're going to do is think of an example of an evaluation. So we need to see what type of evaluation we're going to be looking at. So we've just looked at laddish subcultures, and we've just maybe written a paragraph around that chains of analysis that we've just worked through, and how that might shape male identity. So what we're going to do is evaluate this now, and we're going to see what type of evaluation we're going to do. So do you mind spinning the wheel, John? So, can we think of a limitation? I sort of hinted at one already, but can you think of a limitation with the idea, and there's multiple limitations of this. So, one limitation of the argument that boys join these laddish subcultures and this shapes their male gender identity. Can you think of an evaluation of this idea that laddish subcultures create this male gender identity? There might be a couple of limitations with that argument. So I know Jack's been working really hard on this, but there are other students. We can see there are other students on this live stream. So please feel free to contribute. And Craig, are you back? Is Craig back at all?
I am
John?
back. Yeah.
You are back. In the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I am back.
Yeah, cool. You can contribute then. Sorry.
I'm not. I am back. So yeah, when we're looking at this evaluation, we're looking at a limitation of the concept that sort of like laddish subcultures shape male gender identity. Well, is there anything else that could shape male gender identity? Do all boys conform to a laddish subculture? These are maybe some of the things that you kind of consider in there. If we have a look at the argument, let's see a response. I said that it fails to explain the emergence of other forms of male identities. This idea is quite deterministic of laddish subcultures. That boys, if they reject education, that they will form this laddish subculture. Laddish subcultures as well, they do tend to go across social class boundaries when you look at it. But there are other forms of male identity within the education system, what Mike Ward called geek identities. You may have also seen it referred to the work of Becky Francis and Louise Archer as boffin identities within girls. Girls who have identities where they're highly seen as being highly intellectual. And we do have the formation of these identities. It is not just about laddish behaviours. So that could be a limitation of the argument, is that not all boys conform to laddish behaviours, and they don't all fall into laddish subcultures. If we go on to our next
thank you,
activity, stepping stones again. Yeah, thanks, Jack. I'm sorry, I'm just going to see my comments coming up here. Yeah, male gender identity is not always affected by male gender identity. Perfect, Jack. It just didn't come up on my screen. I think I'm having some terrible connection problems so far. It used to be fine when we were on at 6:30. Maybe everybody's trying to get online at tea time. Okay, let's look at in the ways in which gender socialization can impact on the way that girls are more likely to pick humanities subjects. So again, this is a perfectly correct thing. Gender socialization leads to girls picking humanities subjects. But how does it cause that? How does that happen? What are the stages that we go through? We might start with how are girls socialized? What type of identity, how does girls' socialization differ from boys' socialization, for example? If we just click on to the second one, a little bit of link for those who are doing families and households. Well, we would say gender socialization. Girls are socialized into the more expressive role. Now, this is a very traditional thing. This might be something that we evaluate a little bit later on. But girls socialized into an expressive role, which means that what happens? Oh, it's popped up. They're taught to be caring and nurturing. Can we make the link between being caring and nurturing and girls going into humanities subjects? Well, let's reveal that one, John. In people rather than things. And this is a concept that's often talked about, sort of like within the differences between males and females. Males are more interested in things, females are more interested in people. Again, very stereotypical. Of course, in contemporary society, it's a lot more diverse than that. And maybe that's something you evaluate. But you can see there that what we've done is we've taken the idea of gender socialization and explained how it has led to girls being more likely to pick up arts and humanities subjects. Let's look at an evaluation for that on our next activity, or our final activity, the evaluate wheel again. So socialization in gender roles leads girls to choose subjects in the feminine domain, i.e. the arts and humanities. Let's spin that wheel and see how we might evaluate that. What might be an alternative view? What might be an alternative pick subjects in the feminine domain? So an alternative view we're looking at here is like one, we've said that socialization exists. What might be an alternative view that suggests that? What might have more of an impact than gender socialization? It's a pretty tough one. Often we talk about alternative views when we're talking about different theoretical approaches, but often, especially when we're talking about gender and gender socialization, we often tend to be talking about a feminist perspective. Let's see what we've put as an alternative view. Okay, our alternative view is that actually girls aren't sticking in the feminine domain, and we've seen large increases in girls doing maths, biology, and chemistry. And we may link this to sort of like the idea that girls are socialized not into the expressive role anymore, but they are socialized into a more gender neutral role, and they're socialized into taking more of an interest in science, technology, engineering, and maths. And that could be way. And Jack, you're not alone. I'm a male who does humanities as well. I've disappeared off the screen again.
Oh, I want to say, first of all, well done, Jack. I think Jack is the one.
Definitely.
Jack is the star of today. If it wasn't for you, it would just be me talking or Craig. So thank you. And
largely you, Katie. I've disappeared about 3 times.
That's okay. That's what teamwork's about. But thank you, Jack. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic because, if it wasn't with you, I would be talking into the wind. So thank you.
Indeed. Thank you, Jack. And of course, a massive thank you to Katie and to Craig for battling through some of the technical problems that we've had tonight.
Do you know what? I'm going to put it out there. It's your fault, John, because you said at the beginning, he said, just for people who are listening, if there are technical problems, do you think you'd be able to do it on your own? So it's called Tempted Fate. Duncan's coming with a thumbs up from nowhere. Where
Jasmine's coming with an answer. There is a bit of a delay. So that's possibly why it's not like we've got a little bit later on some answers. So Jasmine's coming with an answer of peer pressure, which would be a good one. What we do find is that lots of people watch it lots of people watch this on catch up, Jack. So what they will do is they will watch it at a later time. We'll watch it through the week. Usually the numbers sort of like of people watching increase, and particularly when it comes to exam time. I think
Yeah,
yourself
exactly.
and
It's
Katie and
hundreds.
Duncan, we've had it where we've had 100, we have had 1,000 for the one.
Jack,
He's
do
gone.
keep
He's
trying to
gone.
sell this to your
Yeah.
friends, and we'll get our connection problems sorted the next time that we're on. Like I say, thank you to Jack, thank you to Jasmine, thank you to Katie, and thank you to Craig, of course, for delivering tonight. If you didn't believe this was live, now you know it is, absolutely. If you've been watching us tonight, so we're back on again next week, I believe. Craig, is that true?
Yeah, back in next week. So yeah, we're
Yes, Duncan will be back. Duncan will be back next week. Neither Katie nor I are here, but Duncan will be back next week, and I believe he is looking at ethnicity and education, with possibly with another member of our team. So
definitely.
If you have found tonight useful, please do give us a thumbs up in YouTube. That helps us get our message out there. Don't forget the PowerPoint is available for you to download in literally 10 seconds time when I press the finish button. And of course, this has, believe it or not, been recorded. Right, good night, everybody. Goodbye.
All right, take care. Good night.